And something which we've just had a change of CEO. Our CEO has become last year has become our chairman, but Andy is a really keen cyclist, which those of us on his exec know only too well. That he's constantly complaining that we're all fat and we're all unfit. Last year, supported on one of the stages by Chris Hoy, Andy cycled from Land's End to John O'Groats and raised about £1.6 million, which last year we put into setting up cycle clubs for children from underprivileged households and in deprived communities, working with CITC, and that's rolling out across the country at the moment. So that money's actually going to get cycling clubs so that kids can go and learn to cycle safely, they can get proficiency tests and they can learn how to do it, and they can get a bit of exercise. This year the money is going into raising money for breast cancer awareness. He's going to do the same thing again. But we've a commitment with CITC to get something like 1,000 cycling clubs up and running over the next couple of years. And again, that's part of our commitment to doing things in communities. A lot of our stores are in some of the most deprived postcodes in the country, and actually having safe environments for children to go and get exercise is really important to customers. And finally, just something on school food, because it's such a personal interest of mine. Jamie did start a revolution, and he did take us from turkey twizzlers on the left to much healthier food on the right. And it is improving beyond recognition. I know probably those of you who work in local authorities know what a struggle it has been culturally to change the view around school food. And it was because school food had become detached from the whole sense of being part of the curriculum, being part of the pastoral care that schools have. It being contracted out, it was being provided by other servers, it was about providing it at the lowest possible cost. Yeah, it's been painful, and I think, did we go too far too quickly in putting not just food-based standards but nutrient-based standards for school meals in place? Possibly, but actually it's beginning to work. Take-up is getting back to beyond 2005 levels. And some very clear research that's just come out from the Trust on an intervention study that was done in Yorkshire, that children were more alert and over 3 times more likely to be on task working with teachers in the classroom after having a school lunch versus those children who weren't having a school lunch. So real evidence there that good nutrition doesn't just deliver health benefits, but it delivers wider benefits around education and behaviour. And the work we were doing there to provide advice to parents, curriculum packs for teachers and what have you, is about supporting that and about supporting cookery clubs in schools as well, not just to get kids cooking, but actually get their parents cooking as well, Saturday morning cookery clubs and so on. So try and sum up, and then we've got 5 or 6 minutes for some questions. Trust and transparency in encouraging children to eat healthily is really important. And this holistic approach, both in terms of looking at all the stakeholders and seeing the kids themselves as one of the stakeholders, is really important. But also balancing balancing the energy in and the energy out. The importance of constant engagement and reassurance and coming up with creative solutions. It's a core value for our business, with the principles about being tasty, natural and healthy. And the last point is this around engagement, which is to say we're finding it much easier now to sort of engage with customers around, you make the decisions, you input into the decisions about what we sell. And over the course of the next year, you'll see us rolling out products right across the store, but particularly in food, which have been chosen by our customers, the products that they want to see. So getting them involved in what are the sorts of things you want to see. Come along and taste it. Is it how you wanted it to be? Does it have the right ingredients? Does the packaging give you the right information? So really bringing them into the process, and particularly in this area where it is so important to mums. Thank you for your attention. As I say, I think we've got about 5 minutes if anybody's got any questions. Question.
I'm a community paediatrician in North Wales. I'm Ewart Bos, a community paediatrician from North Wales. Thank you for a very interesting presentation. As a person from the food industry, I just wonder what your personal view is about the sometimes mooted tax on either sugar, fat or salt, or a tax on heavily processed food. In my view, for the hard-working families where 2 parents work, the balance is for cost, both in time and in money, still heavily seems to favor heavily processed food over starting with fresh ingredients. And do you think a tax could help balance it out a bit?
You're going to probably expect me to say this as a businessman, but I'm very wary of tax as a mechanism for necessarily changing behaviours. I think one of the things that you've seen, and I think it's where voluntary approaches work, if you look at the amount of reformulation in food, and particularly in processed food, that's gone on through the work that the FSA encouraged through, firstly, salt reduction, which has been successful. There's still a way to go, but it's been successful. The work that's now happening on saturated fats. What happened with front-of-pack labelling? Now, you can have a huge debate about whether we've ended up with a whole load of confusing schemes on front-of-pack labelling, and I would argue we have a lot of confusing schemes. What it did do was encourage a faster pace of reformulation, and it made it a competitive edge. I think if government had come straight in and said, we want this system of front-of-pack labelling, we want these targets for salt, fats and sugars, what you'd have had was a race to the bottom. Everybody would just go, well, we'll comply with that, and you'd have taken innovation out. I think there's been a lot of innovation. I think some of the food manufacturers were slow to market the reformulated products hard enough. So there would be, we've got a reformulated low salt, low sugar baked bean, but can you just put it down there on the shelf, please? Because we still want people to buy the full-on one. I think that what we found in own brand, where we've tried to simplify processed food, one of the things we learned very, very early on through the reformulation and the front-of-pack labelling exercise was you have to have your ranging right, because otherwise the customer is confused. So the example I always quote is lasagna. And this was happening just as I came into the business 3 years ago. We rolled out the first category of our ready meals with front-of-pack labelling on, and we use coloured traffic lights plus text that says high, medium and low and GDAs, so we belt and brace it. And sales of lasagna went through the floor, and they're going, oh my God, it's terrible, we've got to pull it, we can't do the front-of-pack labelling. I said, no. Problem you've got is you've only got one product in that category. Mum has thought intuitively it was reasonably healthy. It's now got a lot of red on it. She's looked for the healthier version. It isn't there, so she's stopped buying into the category. You've got to have healthier alternatives and trade people into those. And so what I think you're seeing is a move to those healthier processed foods. Whether in some parts of the market you need to see some incentives coming in or some disincentives, I think remains a moot point, but I still think there's a long way to go. One of the things we need to do is clear the logjam in Europe, which is really stopping the UK particularly going much further in what they would like to do, because the debate on front-of-pack labelling is mired in politics in Europe. And if we could get a single scheme across Europe that was based on GDAs plus additional information around either colour or text, I think you'd see the kind of innovation that you saw in the UK happening across Europe. Question at the front, and then lady back over there.
As a retailer, are you making any moves towards getting produce that are ripened naturally? I know that most things are force ripened, and like fruits, for example, you'll have fruits that are symmetrical, right shape, and that sort of stuff. But oftentimes we have found that the nutrients are not there because they're not naturally ripened. Are there any moves to sort of improve that?